This week, on Monday, on Beware of Spoilers, we'll be talking about Season 2, Episode 1 of The Last of Us. And on 30-Minute Reviews, we'll be talking about Mission Impossible 2. On Tuesday, on the Backlog Files, we'll be talking about the new indie game Bookbound. On Wednesday, on Beware of Spoilers, we'll be talking about Daredevil Born Again, the Season 1 finale. On Thursday, also on Beware of Spoilers, we'll be talking about the new movie Sinners with Michael B. Jordan, directed by Ryan Coogler. And on Sunday, we'll be rounding out the week with Season 2, Episode 2 of the revival on Disney Plus of Doctor Who, also on Beware of Spoilers. As always, you can keep track of our schedule on mwpnews.com. Good morning and welcome to Exploring Hyperspace Lanes. I am Adam. It is 9:30 in the morning on my way to work, and Josie is not going to be here for this one. This is going to be just me, because Star Wars Celebration has begun, which means that, it's time for the announcements. Shit's getting announced, they're showing shit off. This happens every year. This year it's in Japan, so we're on like a 12-hour time difference. Fun things all around. Now, I think that there are two big announcements yesterday. Number one is the next movie. The next movie is going... Well, first of all, with The Mandalorian and Grogu, they showed some stuff off from. And The Mandalorian and Grogu comes out next May. 1 year after that is the next movie after that. 1 year after that is... That light was incredibly short. What the fuck? 1 year after that is Star Wars Starfighter, which is the movie that Sean Levy is making with Ryan Gosling. It is not a prequel to anything. It is not a sequel to anything. Their words, not mine. What the fuck are you doing? Is this woman trying to make a Left on Red? Their words, not mine. It is a prequel. It is not a prequel. It is not a sequel. It's a standalone story set a few years after Episode 9. No other details were given, besides Ryan Gosling is in it. We also knew... Oh, okay, I guess both of you just gun it. We also knew that... There was a report in Variety the other day that Mikey Madison was in talks, but had since declined starring in it. And I think yesterday's announcement kind of illustrates why. And the other big announcement was the new Maul show, which is a prequel to Solo, setting up how he becomes this kingpin in the underworld. Now, Disney doesn't exactly have the best track record when it comes to portraying people becoming, kingpins in the underworld, because we just saw this with Book of Boba Fett, and it was weird because it's like, he's a mob boss, but he doesn't kill, or deal drugs, or do anything illegal, and it's like, okay, so what does he do then? It's like, nothing. Great. Moving on. And I'm not super optimistic about that, but I'll watch any animated Star Wars show. And that's coming out next year. We also have Tales of the Underworld coming out next month, I think. Tales of the Underworld drops on, I think it's May the 4th. And we also have Visions coming this year. Now, all of that said, I think it's time to acknowledge that the issues at Star Wars extend beyond Kathleen Kennedy. I think we've talked about this before, maybe not on this show, maybe on, maybe on Beware of Spoilers, maybe on 30-Minute Reviews, the idea that there was a period where you could, where Disney could do no wrong. Disney would release a movie would make $1 billion, everyone would go and see it, and they would be making tons upon tons of money. Rather than expecting that to become the these are exceptions, and trying to figure out what it is about these movies that drew that level of audience. Because drawing in enough people to get $1 billion is an achievement, and it takes a lot to get there. So rather than questioning what they did to get that, the expectation became, what can we do to do that every time? How can we replicate this every single time? And what you end up with is Disney studio interference and studio mandates that are going above and beyond what anyone expects. So, like, the reason why when Disney Plus launched, there were a bunch of Disney Plus exclusive live-action remakes, like Pinocchio and Peter Pan and Lady and the Tramp, is The Lion King made a fuck ton of money. It made over $1 billion. I think Beauty and the Beast made close to, if not $1 billion. So, that's why you end up with those things there. It's, these things made a lot of money in the movie theater. If we put them on the streaming service as a value-added thing, people will jump to it and go and watch it. Therefore, we want to make one of these a year if possible, if not more. And that's how you end up with a bunch of the live-action remakes that are there exclusively. Oh, people like Star Wars? Okay, we want to have Star Wars shows there. People like Marvel? We want to have Marvel shows there. That's what this is all about. People like Zootopia? Okay, we want to make a Zootopia TV show. Moana was popular. We want to make a Moana TV show. Things like that. And when we look at Disney's existing slate, what we see is a lot of sequels. We don't see a lot of original IP. Realistically, this is just an extension of the remake thing, the remake train we're on. You don't have to sell me on or as hard when you look at TV. It's like, oh, they're doing Watson, which is a Sherlock TV show. Oh, they're doing a remake of Matlock, but not really. But it got the name Matlock. Like, it's designed where it's like, I don't need to sell you on this because you already know what this is. And since you already know what this is, you don't need to be pre-sold on it. Oh, look, Roseanne's coming back. Oh, look, Will and Grace is coming back. Oh, what? There was another TV show that I'm like, why? Oh, Clueless. They're doing a Clueless revival. Who needed a sequel series to Clueless? Like, I love Clueless. It's a great movie. I don't need a sequel series about what she's up to 30 years down the line. I'm sorry, I don't. And therein lies where we are with Star Wars. This idea that we can expect, like, okay, The Force Awakens comes out, and it does over $1 billion. It does $2 billion. It's like a top 5 highest grossing movie of all time. At the time, it may have been in the top 3. Because I think it may have gotten close to, I think, if I remember correctly, there was conversation about it eclipsing Titanic and Titanic and Avatar, because it had such a wide berth. The issue was it didn't have China to pull it over the finish line, so in the way that Avatar did. Now, all of this said, where are we on this now? So let's look at the movies they have in development. Okay, the other thing they confirmed was that the Simon Kinberg trilogy is still happening. So, 2 years ago at this point, was it 2 or was it 3? It was 2, I think. 2 years ago at Star Wars Celebration, we got the announcement of, yes, because this show was ongoing at the time. So it was 2 years ago, because me and Josie talked about it. 2 years ago, we get the announcement that there are 3 Star Wars live-action theatrical movies in development. There is a new Jedi Order movie that is set after Rise of Skywalker. There is a wrap-up to the Mandalorian era stuff, like the New Republic stuff. There's a wrap-up to that in development from Dave Filoni. And there's a wrap-up to, there's a Dawn of the Jedi movie from James Mangold. All of these are in development. All of these are coming at some point in the future. That was all confirmed at Celebration 2 years ago. We have heard nothing since about any of these movies. Yesterday we heard they are still happening, but they're not coming. And the issue is, look at the littered graveyard of projects that have been announced from Star Wars over the course of the decade and a little extra, the almost 15 years since Disney acquired it. The Boba Fett movie, the Obi-Wan movie, the Jabba the Hutt movie, like the Rangers of the Old Republic, which I refuse to believe they couldn't rework in some way. If not, I'm going to be honest, I can't envision them recast, and there's a whole other conversation to be had about this with the whole, Cara Dune thing, and what's it called, and Gina Carano. I don't believe you couldn't recast her. And even if you couldn't recast her, I don't believe you couldn't have done that show without her, with a different character. I don't think it needed to be specific. There was a way you could have done. You could have done it with a different character. There are plenty. You mean tell me there's only one Ranger of the Old Republic? Come on now. You could have backdoor piloted it in season 3 with a new character and then moved on and done that. If you want to give her backstory with Din Djarin, there was a way to do that. Unfortunately, they just didn't. And Jesus Christ, that guy is... What the fuck is going on? There are 3 people just kind of cruising along here in very dangerous ways on the expressway. I think they're racing, to be honest, because this is incredibly unsafe. But either way, because he cut me off very close. But the point is, I don't think that the mismanagement that we're seeing from Star Wars is specifically a Star Wars problem. I think this is a Disney problem. This is a Disney demanding perfection. This is a Disney demanding you got to make $2 billion out of every release, and that's what you have to do. Every movie that comes out has to make $2 billion. And the issue with that is that if you're going to sit here and reshoot it over and over and over again, even the amount that it takes to break even is going to go up. To break even, it's going to continually increase, which is why, had they just released Brave New World in whatever form it was in, there's an argument to be made that the amount of reshoots they do that are not the standard pickups that you get all the time in movies, if there's a case to be made that they're probably better off just releasing the movie in whatever state it's in, because you're not going to 2.5 times whatever money you're putting into reshoots. If you're putting $40 million into reshoots, you're not making $120 million more out of that, in all likelihood. So you're better off just not doing it. You're better off just whatever, fuck it, whatever state the movie's in, we'll release it that way. That's the thing, is that there are movies that have come out that have famously not had scenes that were originally envisioned because shit went wrong. The first example I think of is Clerks, which was a small indie movie on a $25,000 budget. Maybe I'm overselling how much money they had, but there's a scene it's on the deleted scenes. It's a longer version of when Randall goes to the video store, and there's a whole exchange and all of that. The issue was the sound recorder wasn't working, so there's no audio, or there's very light audio, so they had to cut it. So you just get the scene of him walking in and having the moment oh my god, this is beautiful. That kind of thing is is it worth the money to try and reshoot that scene? Probably not, in all likelihood. Probably not. In all likelihood, you're probably better off just work around it. Do something else. When you're reshooting the entire movie functionally from the ground up, renaming characters and altering things like that, removing characters, adding characters, it's are we using the money to the best of our abilities? Not really. I think Star Wars is trying to get around that by aiming for perfection before the reshoots. They're aiming for perfections before a single frame is shot. And to an extent, that's fine, because it's going to cost you less to have a writer continually rewrite the movie. Rewrites do not cost as much as, because you're only paying one writer. Even if you're paying him the SAG rate, you're only paying the one writer, and that's a lot cheaper than having to do it on the fly or having to change the movie once it's already mostly shot, or having to reshoot the movie from the ground up in the case of Solo. It makes sense to do that to an extent. But here's the thing. We are 2 years out from the announcement of these movies. We are nearing the point where we are closer to the release of Starfighter than we are the announcement of these movies. And not a single frame has been shot. I don't think there's even a script for Dawn of the Jedi. I'm going to be honest. Based on the comments from, based on what Kathleen Kennedy said in the, I'm not retiring article, based on what she said there, it does not sound like James Mangold has started work on that movie. Because James Mangold is doing other shit. He was on a press tour for A Complete Unknown. He was doing the Oscar circuit for Complete Unknown. He's also working with James Gunn over at DC to do a Swamp Thing movie. There are things that are that are preempting that. And it's I don't know if that's going to happen. Remember, 5 years ago, they announced Rogue Squadron? Well, is this what Rogue Squadron would have been? Is that what this movie is? This movie is Rogue Squadron? If that's the case, then I feel like we should have a conversation about that, because if this is what this movie was, then I don't know that we're necessarily, it's a weird situation all around, and it's I don't know if that's necessarily the best idea, to have taken... I have confidence that Sean Levy can work in a system, and I think that's what you need to do. To use sports parlance, you need a system quarterback. If you're going to work you need to be a system quarterback if you're going to work for Star Wars. You can't be someone who you're going to expect them to build a team the way you want it around you. He'll bring in Ryan Gosling and he'll bring in his guy, but you're dealing with an authoritarian GM. You gotta that's really the best way to put it, honestly. I mean, if it you are the quarterback as the director, or you're the coach, really. I mean, I don't know, whatever. The analogy falls apart a little bit. No, the writer's the coach. I'll come up with a better analogy later. Either way, the point is you're dealing with an authoritarian GM in that, and you're dealing with an owner who's ridiculous in their requests. I think when I was playing NHL 2016 or whatever the fuck it is, NHL 16, the game a decade ago, I was playing as the Rangers, and the owner was like, you need to find more parking, and I was like, it's fucking in the middle of Manhattan, dude, what the fuck. Think that as your owner. That's where this is right now, and that is the situation that they find themselves in. Do I think that they are handling this well out of the gate? I would say they probably aren't. And I think that the more projects you announce that either don't hit dates or just don't come out, the worse it looks. Because it just looks dysfunctional. And that's the thing, is that it's even if there are things that are look, we were working on this project, we couldn't get the script to work, and we're going to get rid of it. I think, famously, before we knew Joss Whedon was a shithead, I mean, I guess people knew, but before it was really public knowledge, I did a thing defending Joss Whedon because he departed the Batgirl movie that was in development because he couldn't crack the script. People were like, what the fuck? And I was like, that is a perfectly valid reason to depart, to not work on a movie. If you couldn't crack the script, perfectly valid. I'd rather that than they cobble together a movie with a shitty script that is just kind of fine. I'd rather they find someone who can actually do it. And admitting I can't do this, there's nothing wrong with that. There's things wrong with all the other things that Joss Whedon did, but that's not one of them. And therein lies kind of the issue with there lies kind of the issue with this, is that it's I think what they need to do is they kind of need to do the mea culpa. They kind of need to do the, they kind of need to do the, what's it called? What do I look for here? Like what Pokemon did 2 years ago after Scarlet and Violet. And Scarlet and Violet come out and it just looks like trash. It runs like trash. I had fun with it, but it runs like trash. It's jittery, it's janky, it's the textures don't look good, the game doesn't look like a AAA game coming out in 2023. It's just awful, like in that regard. So basically what they do is they say, look, we are going to hold back. We are not going to just release a game this year. We're going to give it a little extra time to cook, and we're going to make it look really good. And from what we've seen so far, in terms of ZA, I think it looks pretty good. I think it looks like a marked improvement. But we will see when it comes out. If I were to venture a guess, probably in November. But regardless, that's where it is right now. They need to do something like that. They need to come out and say, look, over the last 15 years, we have announced a lot of things that didn't end up happening. Here's what they are, and here's why they didn't happen. And it's like, that is something that I feel like would be, and it's like, look, it's never going to happen because it requires people high up to take accountability for making bad decisions. And we've talked about this before. Is I should go back and listen to the 30-minute reviews I did where they were blaming the two women kissing in Lightyear on why that movie bombed. And it's like, go back and Disney blamed it on that. Disney blamed Rachel Zegler for the failings of Snow White. And not the fact that, who the fuck cares about Snow White? But the point is in all of this that, people need to take accountability. You can't just take accountability for the successes and be like, look at how great we are. We did all of these things. These things are all really good. We did a great job. You can't just take accountability for the successes. When something goes wrong, you gotta take accountability for that too. And to an extent, the way to do that in this case, to kind of clean the slate, is to be like, here are the projects we aren't doing anymore. Here's why. Here's everything we've announced over the last 15 years that didn't happen, and here's why they didn't happen. And just be transparent. Without that transparency, it just feels like nothing. But we will wrap up there for today. If any more news happens out of Star Wars Celebration, we will report on it the following day, because again, we're on a 12-hour delay because it's happening in Japan. And anything else that happens, we will gladly report on it. But until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.